very welcome to enter in both Barbara's and my drawers. That sounded wrong. This is the first bit I'm recording and I've got the outtake for the beginning. Hello lovely people and welcome to the August 2020 episode of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. My name is Leslie and this is a podcast about knitting, spinning, weaving, crochet, anything yarn related, recorded on the south coast of England. Hello everyone, you're very welcome, whether you're discovering me for the first time or thinking, oh blimey it's her again, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Hope everyone's doing well, keeping well. It's been a time of mixed weather, of varying amounts of danger, so I hope everyone's safe, well, keeping safe in times of COVID and just looking after yourselves. It's called the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast for newer viewers, despite the fact that I have a lot, because I rarely have enough to make all of the same project in one yarn. Because I tend to buy things because I think, oh, they're pretty, or want to support a particular maker, and I then spend a lot of time putting things together. So that's why we're called Not Quite Enough Yarn. It's not because I'm running out, not yet. I tend to record throughout the month as I've got things to show you, so finished items, acquisitions, bits of progress, what have you, and then I put it all together and post on the last weekend of each month. I'm involved in 2 year-long giveaways, and I'm also going to do a third short-term giveaway, which I will talk about in a moment. But firstly, the wonderful Barbara from the Flame and Fibre podcast and I are doing the Stash Mal 2020. So this is projects using items in your stash. Some people are spinning, so if the fibre was in your stash and they're spinning it up now, a lot of people are knitting and crocheting. The rules are basically the raw material had to be in your stash as at the end of last year, and the project had to be started after the 1st of January this year. Very simple. If you need to get some new yarn to finish something off, as long as it's no more than 50% of the total, it's still eligible. You're very welcome to enter into both makealongs. They're both being hosted on Ravelry, and both Barbara and I have Ravelry groups, so please join the group if you want to take part. And we have a finished object thread, which is a no chatter thread, so by all means put a bit of description, what's inspired you, how long you've had the yarn, what it's made of, where the pattern came from, whatever you want to add. But there isn't the capacity on that thread for others to respond. But there is also a chatter thread, so by all means put your finished object on there as well, so that folks can respond to it, tell you how much they like it, and so forth. The prizes, at the end of each quarter, we draw 2 prizes, one from the chatter thread, and that's a pattern prize up to a value of $10 US. And there's also a physical prize, so yarn or something equally gorgeous, and that will be drawn from the finished object thread. Now, I am aware that although there appear to be some inroads in Ravelry trying to sort out the problems that have caused accessibility difficulties for some users, there may still be some of you who are not able to access the Ravelry threads at the moment. So if you want to enter a finished object into the thread and can't do it via Ravelry, please email it to me. Email me a picture of the finished object to notquiteenoughyarn@gmail.com, and I will include that in the draw. And if you have any comments, you know, if you want to send me an email that says, oh, I really liked post number 75, by all means add it in. I know that it's not the same as a proper chatter on an internet forum, but at the moment it seems to be the most sensible workaround. But if you have better ideas, let me know. This doesn't appear to have become a huge issue. From the response I've had, there doesn't appear to be a major problem among you, my lovely viewers. But I am not complacent about this, and if only one person can't use the Ravelry thread, we'll find a solution. No one is to be excluded through reasons of not being able to access the screen and have problems with the site. So we'll get around that as we need to. So that's the first make along. So anything from your stash that was in your stash as at the end of last year. The other make along is co-hosted with the wonderful Kellyanne of Yarn Tales by the Sea, and that is the Ocean Mal 2020. So this can be new yarn. This doesn't have to be from your stash. It can be, and it's anything sea related, seaside, coast, beach. It can be the yarn name, it can be the pattern name, it can be a pattern with waves in, anything. If you can convince us that it has a connection to the sea, you're in, as far as I'm concerned. And similar way of running things, Kellyanne has a group and threads on Ravelry. I have separate threads, and same thing, finished objects and chatter threads, so it all works in the same way. And if you are using stash, by all means enter into the stash mal as well as the ocean mal. Heidi's very excited, we can tell, can't we? That'll be the postman. Yes, so please, double, quadruple, triple, multiple dipping is encouraged. If you're involved in anyone else's make-alongs and they don't preclude you from entering into another make-along, join in. We are more than happy for projects to be used in more than one place, and I will stop waving my hands around in this ridiculous fashion. So those are the 2 year-long make-alongs. But I'm going to do a little short-term extra one because thanks to you wonderful examples of gorgeousness, I now have 4,000 subscribers. So thank you. That is beyond anything I would ever have expected. So thank you so much for being part of the Not Quite Enough Yarn community. You've no idea how much it means to me. So I'm going to do a yarn giveaway. Now, I will be buying yarn for this, and I've done this in the past, and I have a habit of buying yarn that I think is pretty, but of course we all have different palettes that we like, and I'm about to show you a finished object. I'm into neons at the moment, so that's not for everyone. So it's a very simple entry. This will be on YouTube, so if you can just comment below, and if you can just indicate to me that you're interested in being included in the prize draw for the 4K giveaway, and if you can just give me an idea of what your colour palette is. So it can be you like autumnal colours, or blues, or neons, or jewels, or pastels, or anything yellow, you know, whatever it is. If you can just give me an idea of what your colour palette is, because then when I draw the winner and go and find a wonderful indie dyer to buy some yarn from, I'll get something that will hopefully fit in with your tastes rather than mine. So that is all you have to do. Please just say yes, you'd like to be included in the draw, and just give an idea of your colour palette that you'd be interested in. That's it. If you could do that, please, by the 25th of September, and I will draw at the end of the month. So that would be great. So yes, please do that by 25th of September 2020. How could I possibly forget what year this is? the year where nothing is normal. So that is the administration. Life is administration. And now we're going to go on to a finished object, which I teased you with a moment ago. And I have finished my Lysvirka cardigan. And I love it. I'm going to show you a picture here of me wearing it, because it's one of those items that does look better on than being held up. It's a very cleverly shaped item, so you've got kind of fit and flare. And when you just hold it up, it doesn't really show how that shape works, but it's something I'm really happy with. One of the people from Knit Night says that with this dark yarn at the beginning, I say beginning because it's crocheted rather in two halves from the centre out. So this was my beginning yarn. Looks like I'm wearing a scarf. So this is the Lysvirka. I think I will get a lot of use out of this. It feels really nice to wear. It drapes nicely. So what is it? It is the Lysvirka by Brigitte Osenbruck. Sorry, I had it up on my laptop, which is there. And I will put all links in the notes down below. So yes, so Lysvirka by Brigitte Osenbruck, all in 4-ply or fingering weight yarn. And very unusually for me, these are all yarns I bought this year. Earlier in the year, I had a bit of a, I want to help some indie dyers, particularly as a lot of yarn events and shows and exhibitions were being cancelled. So I went online and bought some yarn. So what yarn did I buy? I've kept all my labels, although one of them got wet. So we had Siobhans Crafts. Is that going to focus? Hopefully. In the charcoal rainbow colourway. Again, I'll list them all below because I don't think that's focusing. So that was the darkest. And then I'd ordered very similar but not identical yarns. So as you can see here, we've got two lots of grey with neon, but they're not quite the same. We've got two lots of neon, but they're not quite the same. And these two are actually the same, but bought at different times, and we can see the joy that is indie yarn, and it comes through very different in colour. But that's fine, because it's indie yarn. That's why we alternate skeins, that sort of thing. So the dark was by Siobhans Knits. The two very bright, so we've got the ones which are predominantly neon. One is by Dusty Dimples in the volleyball colourway, and the other by Dinah's Home of Crafts. Yes, that is right. The wonderfully named Sunglasses Are Required. Now the greys, I've got quite a bit left of this darker one. Yay! This is by Orchidean Yarns. And the other one, the other one is by Twinkknits. I'm throwing stuff all over the floor here. This is one of my superpowers. Yes, so we have Twinkknits and Orchidean Yarns, also known as Luxury Yarns. And they are also the dyer of the sleeves. And these are their charity fundraiser yarns, these sleeves, on their platinum sock base, and they're called All in This Together, and this was their fundraiser for the National Health Service. So this is my Lysvirka. I made some modifications, because I always do. My row gauge was short, so I had to put extra rows in, partly because of that and partly because life is a question of what I can be bothered to do. I didn't do the kind of ribbing patterns. So this has you working in the back loop of the row below to give you a kind of slightly ridged ribbing pattern. I didn't do that. I just did it in straight half trebles and trebles. It says on the pattern that it's UK terms. It's not. It's certainly in English, but it's US terms. So just so you're aware, I'm bilingual when it comes to crochet, but I speak in English crochet, so treble and half treble. If you're in the US, double and half double. The other thing I did, and this is something I quite often do, for the start, as I said, it starts in the middle back. You work one side and then you work the other. Rather than do chain and then work, I did foundation crochet. I find, for me, it makes my tension better. I have faffed around using different hook sizes for my initial chain, and it's still not quite worked well. Whereas if I do foundation crochet, you're working to the right gauge right from the start. So that's what I've done. So I'll put another pic here again. So this is the Lysvirka, and I really like it. I enjoyed making it. In fact, I enjoyed it so much that I started another one immediately, but I have let that one be frogged. That's not working well for me, but I am going to reuse the yarn, and that will come up in a future project. I won't talk too much about that at the moment, but keep this in mind when I talk about that one, because I'm certainly using some of the ideas of the body shaping from this and the construction, but it's not one of these. I'm not helpful. Think of these as spoilers, and no, not spoilers. Think of these as teasers. Woohoo! Now I've got some small bits of yarn left, and I am going to make, where they are very small, I'm going to make a magic ball. With the 2 balls that I used for the sleeves, I've got quite a bit left, so I will use these in another project. These little pieces I have, I will make a magic ball and do something with at some point. But there's not a huge amount left, and I will put into the notes below the total amount of yarn used for my size, which was the largest of the ones offered. But I really like it. If you are a beginner crocheter, I would think twice about doing this pattern, only because it looks complicated, and the way it's written, it was one of those, excuse my hair, it's one of those that I had to read kind of 2 or 3 times before I kind of got what was meant. And it was simpler than it seemed, but it took me a while to realise that. Now this may be a translation issue, and I'm certainly not going to criticise anyone for translating, because I only speak English and rubbish, so I have no other languages on which to base anything. No. And some patterns also, in some places, the style of writing, the kind of house style, if you like, is very different. So it may just be that it was a direct translation, but of a different style of pattern that I'm not used to. So it did take a little while to get my head around exactly what was required, but once I'd realised what they meant, it was very straightforward. So the crocheting itself is not particularly complex, it's just getting your head around the pattern that may be not for your first garment, I would say. Give yourself a bit of a more straightforward, a more traditional, according to your culture, pattern to get used to. But I love it, and I will use it a lot. Now I decided this month that I will not buy any more yarn after I'd bought what I'm just about to show you. I am buying yarn for prizes, but I'm not buying anything to increase my stash. But I've gone out with a bit of a bang. I love a rainbow. And I love crinkly plastic. I'm very fond of rainbows and spectrums. Spectra the plural? Don't know. And so I have bought this one. So this is from Stranded Dye Works, the wonderful Amy. It's her 100% superwash merino. Now I'm going to use it for a garment. That's possibly not wise because it probably will pill, but I don't care. It's her rainbow set. We've got 7 skeins there of 200 metres each. It's just a bit fabulous. So yes, this is what I have bought. This is my last stash enhancement bought by me until I'm down to 2 cupboards. Oh, how we laugh. I have a plan for this, which I will... At the moment, I'm just showing you the yarn. I will go through the plan. I don't think it's too far off in the queue. I think it will be a relatively soon make. So that is that. Have I got anything else to show you at the moment? What's the date on this? After I recorded and posted the last video, I finished a skein of yarn that I was spinning. This was a bit of an example of what happens as you learn to spin. For those who are relatively new, I've only been spinning since the sort of 3rd quarter of last year. I think I got my wheel October, November time, so I'm a relatively newbie spinner. I have a complete alpaca fleece and I am spinning it with other yarn. Now these yarns I made some rolags on, these fibres, the colours that you can see in here, the blues, teals and purples, I don't know if that makes it any better or not. I put together some rolags on a blending board last month. That was a new experiment. But I discovered whilst spinning this that I had drafted my alpaca a little too finely. It kept snapping. I couldn't see it on the bobbin where it had snapped. It all got a little fraught for a while. So I thought, well, I will spin up what I've got and ply up what I've got rather, make a skein of it and start again. So that's what I've done. So this is it. I mean, I'm quite happy with the colours. I'm quite happy with the structure of the yarn. I've put it into a classic 3 ply, so we have 2 plies of alpaca and 1 of the coloured yarn, which is Corriedale. And it feels lovely and soft. And if this were my first skein of yarn, I'd have been like delighted. However, my problem with it is it's much finer than the other yarns I'm working with. My plan is to make a garment out of this stuff. So I've got 18 wraps per inch on this, and normally I get about 13. But it's a learning curve. I may hold this with something else to put it into the item. I may put a stripe in which will have a sort of slightly more open effect because it's a finer yarn. I may make a matching scarf out of it. I don't know at this stage. As a skein of yarn, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not consistent with what I was hoping it would be. We live, we learn. But it was good fun making the rolags, and that's something I will do again. And I just really enjoy spinning. But I've learned not to overdraft, and someone did suggest actually to put more twist into alpaca than you might into other fibres because of the nature of it. It's very soft, staple length and so forth. So that's that. I think that's all I have in my box of tricks. For the moment. Hello lovelies. As you can see, I couldn't resist buying a new toy. This is the Addy King Size. I hope you can hear me above the noise that it makes. It's not too bad for noise. The click is the row counter, which was one of the features that appealed to me. Here we go. It's slightly larger than the one I had before. It's a little quieter. It has that row counter. And another feature that appealed to me about it was the fact that when you work back and forth rather than all the way around, the width of panel that you make is adaptable. Now you adapt it by putting one of these little stoppers on one of these things between the needles, and that then stops the piece going, it stops the machine going round. What I didn't realise is presumably you could put one of these over a similar part of the other machine and it would probably have the same function. I haven't tried that, I'm not saying you should do it, but my guess is that it would work. But like I say, this also has the row counter, which is useful if you're looking to make a blanket and you want to make panels and know that they're all the same size, the same length. That will do the trick. I'm rather happy with it. I do intend to make a sweater on this. This is the Pixum by Jimenez Joseph, Jimmy Knits. She does have a hand knitted version of that pattern as well, but it's made in panels worked from side to side, or as far as the sweater goes, from side to side. So you can see, so you can make the panels on here, join them together, and that creates the front of your sweater, and same for the back. So of course I couldn't resist a new toy. Who could? This is 46 needles. My other Whirly Whirly machine is 40 needles. I know a lot of models. The Centro, which is if you search for circular knitting machine, that's the one you're most likely to see on eBay or Amazon or similar. That has 48 needles. This means that it creates a slightly larger tube, and it does mean that the hats I make, and this will be a charity hat as well, will be bigger. Now on this, when it's on the machine, it looks enormous, but once the hat is made, it won't look quite so enormous, as I shall demonstrate in but a moment. Hypnotic, isn't it? If I wore my Fitbit on my cranking hand, I could make my steps per day look really good, couldn't I? Well, lovelies, I'm now going to do some very complicated and technical finishing on this item. So this is what it looks like when it comes off the machine. This is 130 rows. So we need to do some shaping, which is fun. I mean, come on, let's not pretend it isn't. So yes, this will be a very simple hat. The machine, I mean, it's just a bit of gorgeousness. It's a slightly frivolous bit of gorgeousness. I already had a machine. This one's nicer. I am a child and I should not be taken as a guide of how to behave in any way, shape or form. I will use both of them. I will use the other one. If I had to choose between the two, I would go for the Addy because of the row counting, because of the what I believe is the greater flexibility. But they're both essentially doing the same thing, just slightly different sizes. So a very long bit of yarn there. Let's run that down. So yeah, just cinch in the two ends of the hat and weave in the ends. Now the beauty of this type of hat, where it's one long tube that just folds in on itself, is you can change colour 100 times and all of your ends will be tucked inside the middle. Oh, what fun. Now a lot of people use the Addy to make scarves, and again they're this double thickness, but rather than cinch them in, sew them flat. And there are lots of different things you can do, and what I have realised I can do, as well as the flat pieces, is with the tubes I could make Twiddle Muffs. Now I haven't done any of those for a while. For those who have no idea what I'm talking about, these are pieces of fabric or pieces of knitted or crocheted cloth that are decorated with very tactile things, so buttons, bits of ribbon, buckles, anything that creates a good feel. And these are predominantly for people who have Alzheimer's and dementia, but someone in the comments has said to me recently that folks with diagnoses of autism also find them quite useful. They're a good distraction, they're a good way to kind of calm folks down a bit. So yes, I have made some of those in the past and kind of slipped by the wayside for no reason other than I just was doing other things. But this would be a really good way to do that as well. And so I shall. So that's one end done. And so your knots can stay safely inside. You don't need them. So was I ridiculous to buy this because I want to make a sweater? Yes. Completely. But will I use it for other things? I already have. Let me show you the first hat that I made on it. Again, one of these tube hats. And they are a bit bigger. Where you've got the extra 6 stitches, they are bigger. With the other hats that I was making, and these I'm making to give to a charity that looks after homeless people, I could get them onto my larger polystyrene head, or Bert as he's known, but I normally had to shape the hat on Ethel a bit first before I could get it onto Bert. Whereas with this one, it is bigger, and in fact it is big enough for himself. Now himself has a larger than average head, but it's big enough for him, so that's quite noteworthy in itself. Good job they don't do a 56. We could cover the house with it. So I'm being very cheeky, I often am. Oh, we've got a dropped stitch. Oh, well, let's get that sorted. Yeah, so even with a knitting machine, you will sometimes get a dropped stitch. But let's get that fixed. We now know which is going to be the inside of the hat and the outside. Well, of course, you can make reversible hats. I'll fix that drop and I'll be back with you. I was mentioning the Twiddle Muffs, and here's a tube that I've made. This was some yarn left over from a cowl that I made on my other machine, and this is 2 lots of 4-ply and finer in magic balls that I just held together. So this will be covered with buttons and bows, baubles, bangles and beads, and then I will fold it inside itself, sew up the ends, so it'll be a twiddly thing for someone who will hopefully benefit from that. Repair made rather untidily, but like I say, this is going on the inside of the hat. So you've got this tube, and you just fold 1/2 inside the other. It's a bit like putting a duvet cover on, in that you feel you might get stuck inside. I know, you put the duvet cover inside out first, I know. There is the basis of one's hat. And there we go. So hopefully that will keep someone warm this winter. Oh, now I look like Tintin, never mind. Yep, and that took probably 20 to 25 minutes. So for this kind of purpose, it's a really useful piece of kit. My local homeless people will be warmer. Shame they're still homeless. So that's the Addy King size, and I like it very, very much. Hello lovelies. Now I mentioned that himself could fit into the charity hat that I'd made. So I said, would he like me to make him a hat? I had made him a hat sort of autumn time last year, which I'd knitted 2x2 rib with some acrylic yarn. It was a nice dark black into grey mix, and he liked the hat and it fitted, but he wasn't sure about the warmth. He felt it was a bit cool. So it occurred to me that I have some worsted weight alpaca. Now I have started to use this before, gosh, 2 and a bit years ago. I started to knit along and I was using these two colours for colour work, but I decided not to carry on with the knit along. I felt I wouldn't use the project, so I have used my Addy Express to make a hat instead, and it will be reversible, so we can have green with blue. And let me tell you about the yarn. This is Aslan Trends Royal Alpaca. The green colour is called Hunter, the blue is called Perry, and I used about 90 metres of each colour. I'm not sure what this bit's doing. So this is all good. So this is the green with the blue trim, or we can go the other way around. And as I've put this on to try it on, a thought occurred to me. Now this will only be a reference applicable to people of a certain age in the UK, but they may remember a TV character who wore a green hat. It was a character called Benny in a programme called Crossroads, and I have a feeling I may have made the wrong colour for this hat, because I have a feeling that someone may feel I'm referencing this character who was not the sharpest. But we will see. In my playground, to call someone was a Benny was an insult. It meant they weren't very bright, so we'll see. But it is a lovely warm hat. It's 100% alpaca, and I hope he likes it. He can always wear the other colour. It's fine. He has a choice. I've only gone and done myself another cardigan. I'm standing up so you can see it, and I'll tell you about it in a moment. So it's crocheted, as you can see, edge to edge, very simple, slightly shaped, and I'll now tell you all about it. Are you sitting comfortably? Oh, I'm not sure I am. Hang on. That's a bit better. So I really enjoyed the Lysvirka. I enjoyed making it. I like wearing it. It has a nice drape. And I had the thought that I would like to make some in a particular yarn. Now I am going to try to pronounce this properly, and I would like to apologise to the viewers that I know are in the Netherlands and to all Dutch speakers, but I believe it's called Siepsis Whirl. Most people call it sheepses, but I think Siepsis. I know that's not right, but I hope it's closer to... Sorry. I was given 4 balls of whirl in the Blueberry Bam Bam colourway, and I hadn't at that point got a particular project in mind, but as I was making the Lysvirka with that dark front, I thought actually one of these in whirl would be good, starting with the dark colour, moving out to the light. So that's what I did. Now I tried first of all using the Lysvirka pattern all again, and this is classed as a fingering weight, but I would say it's a light fingering. It's a cotton acrylic mix, so you can't tell by the yardage because the density of the yarn is better, but it's actually 455 metres for 100 grams, so there is a lot of yardage. So that felt too holy, basically. I'm sure there is a technical term, I don't know what it is. Now with the Lysvirka pattern, the designer also has instructions for double knitting weight yarn, so I thought, well, I'll try sneezy, sorry about that. So I will try the yarn doubled, and that seemed to go too much the other way. That went a little bit on the heavy side. So I was wondering what to do. So I started looking for another pattern that the gauge would match the heavier fabric. Because for Lysvirka, it was going to go completely out for putting the pattern together, but I quite like the fabric. So I had a search around and I came across the Makealongs, see what they did there, Duster Cardi. This is by Century Box Design. I'll put a picture in here. And the gauge matched. I think it's 14 stitches per 4 inches or 10 centimetres. So I started to... Now the Makealongs is worked cuff to cuff. But I thought, well, that's okay, because I can start at the halfway point and do kind of like the second half and then reverse it. So I started to do that, used those instructions for the number of stitches to give me the length of the cardigan. But I also wanted some of the shaping that came with the Lysvirka, which you get from different stitches. So I decided to build some of that in. I mean, this is a classic start with a couple of ideas, make it up as you go along type of pattern. So I did some of that, and then I was going by the pattern. It said it wanted the size it wanted, the length of the shoulder, and it was quite a lot, and I thought, I'm gonna have an awful lot of fabric kind of here. And of course that initial design is for a duster, so that's straight up and down. I wasn't making a straight up and down cardigan. So I measured from my height, from my shoulder to the fullest bust, and worked this width measurement to there, and kind of worked it from there to see if it would be the right sort of fit. So I did that, got to the size that I wanted, seamed up the side to where the armholes are, and then joined in the round and worked the sleeves down. Like the Lysvirka, I did 2 or 3 attempts on the sleeves. I was decreasing a bit too regularly, so it was going in a bit tight. Also, the length is short, it's come out a bracelet length. That's fine, partly because where this is a cotton acrylic yarn, if anything, I expect it to grow a little, to sag. So I think these will probably come longer if anything, but that length is fine as they are. So when I got to the end of the sleeves, I just did a little crab stitch ending. I move my head out the way, hopefully that will focus. So that was the first half done. I then thought that the shaping was slightly different for the back neck, and now I'm running out of battery. Next thrilling instalment to come. Da, da, da. Battery changed. I then began to wonder about the back neck, which is an odd thing to wonder about. I don't think I'm giving away any secrets, because a look at the schematic will tell you this, that the Lysvirka divides less than halfway. That's really badly explained. The back neck is lower down than half of the row. Hopefully that will make sense. So you get a bit of a V at the back to then come forward for the shoulders. The Makealongs doesn't have that. Again, it's looking for a completely different shape of garment, and I'd altered that. So what I did is I got some Rowan wool cotton, which I had in the stash, which is the edging colour here, and I just did 4 rows straight across. I'm going to give you a quick look so you can see. Hopefully you'll be able to see that. Of course I can't see what you're seeing, so I'm hoping you can. And then I carried on. So then I did the second half to match the first. Again, crab stitch on the sleeve, and then I just did a few rows round the edge and a crab stitch, oh, Freudian slip, a crab stitch finish on that, just to give it that nice edge. So hopefully that will show. There we go. And I'm delighted with it. So it's taken me certainly under 3 weeks. I started it almost as soon as I'd finished the previous one. And I'm done. And I really like it. It's been a dream to make. The Whirl yarn is beautifully soft. Like I say, it's a cotton acrylic mix. Lovely and soft. Really nice feel to it. Love the colour gradient. Thought I was going to run out. Didn't. Had some left over. Still have some left over. And that's despite me making the next project I'm about to show you, which is much, much smaller. Yeah, so this is a sort of a mega mix of the Movelous by Century Box Designed and the Lysvirka by Beyernbergen Designs, mashed together by me, and I'm very happy with it. It's a nice cardie. I do like a cardie. So I had some yarn left over. What's happening to me? I had some other yarn ready out of the cupboard to pick up from here if I needed it. It didn't happen. But I thought this yarn, being cotton and acrylic, would be a good baby yarn because it has a nice feel to it as well. And I have made a bib. So this is the Turtle Love bib by Elaine Fitzpatrick, and I'll put a link to her website below. She has lots and lots of different patterns. The overall shape is the same. All knit and purl designs. There are festive ones, there are different animals, there are all sorts of things. So if you need to make a baby bib, I would recommend having a look. They're free patterns, and what a sweetheart she is to create all these wonderful patterns. She does washcloths as well, patterns for them, and they are very, very thoroughly written patterns. This had a chart and written instructions, and what a sweet little thing it is. It calls for worsted yarn. I actually used 3 strands of the Whirl altogether and made this up. I started during knit night and I finished today, so that's just taken a couple of hours work. I was doing some in the car earlier, so a few hours work rather than a couple, but yeah, what a lovely little thing. So I shall be making more of these with different patterns on, but very happy with that. So yes, another cardigan, a bib, some yarn left over, and I still don't know how to say siepjes. I really hope that's somewhere near right. My lovely Dutch viewers, please don't be cruel, just be kind and tell me where I'm going wrong with it. It is a really lovely yarn. I had wanted to try it, and someone wanted to buy me some yarn earlier in the year, might have been last year actually, and I said, oh, just a ball of that would be great. This lovely person ended up buying me 4 of them, which was incredibly generous. And look, I now have a cardigan, which I am delighted with. So another FO, straight out of nowhere FO. I mean, this wasn't on my radar. It was only as I was making the first cardigan I thought that would work well, and I'm very pleased with how it's turned out. And then some left over for a little turtle as well. Oh. So, all good fun. Well, lovelies, it's the end of another month. It's a bank holiday weekend here. It's our last one until Christmas. Weather is okay. So we may get out and do stuff, we may not. Who knows? But Yeah, all good, all good. So I hope you are all okay. I hope you're all safe between climate, weather, fires, COVID. It's a rough old time, so I hope you're keeping okay. Hope you're looking after yourselves as well as you can, and that those you love are safe and secure as well. Because it's a worrying time. Now I am conscious of one thing, and that's made me conscious of another. Hand knitters, there's not much for you this month, and that's just the way it's worked out. I crocheted a cardigan and then I crocheted another one. I have been working on some hand knits. I've still got the Rocket Tea ongoing and also the Stillness, and I've just been adding bits to them, but didn't really feel like enough to say, look, here it is with another half an inch, you know. It's kind of that situation. So hand knitting has been happening, but in terms of what I'm showing you, there's not much there, so apologies for that. What I've also noticed is missing is I have very little that isn't from white makers or designers. And all the patterns I've talked about, bar one that I've talked about but haven't shown you because I haven't made it yet, all but one of the yarns are all from white makers. And I found this interesting, that I needed conscious thought to notice that. And I asked this as a completely rhetorical question. You don't have to answer me, but would you have noticed if I hadn't pointed it out? And this is one of the fundamental problems that we're having at the moment. And I'm not getting into a whole political rant. There are people far more qualified than me to talk about it, and there are still atrocities going on, and it's just horrendous what's been happening in all sorts of places. Most of the coverage is in the USA, but it's not exclusive to America, that we know. So yes, that occurred to me, and like the hand knitting thing, I was thinking about you know, what people would take from this video. And if you're a hand knitter, you might think there's not much for me there. And you may well think the same if you're a person of colour. And if that is the case, then I am sorry. And it's not about tokenism. I mean, when I have, you know, the yarns that I have used from people of colour, I'm not saying, you know, and I use this yarn and this yarn and this one, which is dyed by an Indian woman. You know, I'm not going to do that. That's not what I'm here for. That's a tokenism that I feel is probably not helpful. But it has made me think about, am I looking wide enough when looking for patterns and yarns? I bought a Stand in the Gap t-shirt from Gigi Made It, and I don't feel I deserve to wear it at the moment, but I'm working on it. And better to acknowledge a mistake, apologise, which I absolutely do, and work on it, than pretend it's not happening. So I found that an interesting observation. There may be one or two thumbs down on the stats for this. I quite like them. I see them as badges of honour. But that's just me being bullshit again. So yes, apologies for lack of diversity in terms of the origin of the patterns and yarns that I've used, and in terms of the crafts as well. But it's kind of the way it's worked out this month, but that doesn't mean that more thought isn't worth doing, worth having, worth thinking. And words are now leaving my consciousness. So that is the end of August. I seem to be a bit squeaky. Hopefully that will go with the next cup of tea. What does September hold? Nothing specific. I mean, normally this time of year we'd be planning to go and visit family, but That's not happening this year. Have got some get-togethers with friends and family, some kind of socially distant events, so those of you who watch the weekly blog will see those as they happen. And yeah, just carrying on and carrying on. So just a reminder of the make-alongs, the year-long ones. I will be doing the draw at the end of next month. So in next month's podcast will include the draws from the Ocean Mal and the Stash Mal, and also the 4K giveaway, which is just running for a month and is running on YouTube. So again, please just put in the comments that you're interested in being part of the draw and give me an idea of the colour palette that interests you. That would be absolutely fab. And then I shall find some gorgeous yarn to send to you. I hope that's all okay. Yes, it's definitely autumn here. We had a really hot period in August where it was baking and sweltering and and now very much fresher, much more comfortable, much more to my taste, I have to say. And it will soon be sweater weather here. So keep well everyone, take care, look after yourselves, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching, thank you for liking, subscribing, commenting, all the things. If you don't do any of those things, that's fine too. Just thanks for being here, thanks for being part of this corner of the internet, this corner of the knitting world, crochet world, machine knitting world, yarn related world. And I will see you next weekend, next Friday if you watch the weekly vlogs, and at the end of September if you watch the monthly ones, and both if you watch both. So thanks so much, you take care, look after yourselves, see you again soon, thank you, bye bye.